So in this video, we're going to talk about the last of our emotional appeals. So first one we have here is patriotic appeal. Now you'll probably recognize this from advertisements, and there is an example here of a Tootsie Roll ad as well. So this appeal is the one that kind of screams, this is all American. If you're a good American, you'll buy this product. We see it a lot in car commercials. If you think about like Ford truck commercials, you'll think about, there's usually some country music playing in the background. There might be images of flags. The truck is usually seen out somewhere that's clearly the American Midwest. And they'll say, made in America, and that's a patriotic appeal. We also see it in this Tootsie Roll ad, which is a very interesting example of advertising. So this is a World War II era advertisement, and the text there talks about, it says, the greatest deserve the best. So the implication is that when soldiers return home, as we can see them doing, they're marching back into the city in the advertisement, that all they're going to want is a Tootsie Roll. Tootsie Roll is apparently something, something they would have had as a kid, and that they're just going to want something that reminds them of home and childhood, and that's going to be a Tootsie Roll. Obviously, there's a logic there is a little bit funky, but that's the appeal that is working in this advertisement. And you can see the imagery as well. There's flags waving. The image is primarily red, white, and kind of this bluish black color. So it may seem silly, obviously to us, but that's the appeal in this ad, that Tootsie Roll is all American, and the veterans deserve a Tootsie Roll. But we do still see it, like I said, in car commercials and also clothing commercials as well. Jeans ads are really famous for this, for, made in America, all American jeans. That's patriotic appeal. The next one is scare tactics, which we see a lot in a ton of different venues. Scare tactics are used to frighten the audience into doing something to avoid a scary result. So when using a scare tactic, the writer or speaker paints an extremely pessimistic portrait of what could happen if something is or is not done. We see this a lot in political campaigns too, where one person will say, if you vote for him or her, this terrible thing is going to happen. They're going to engage us in World War III. It's going to be nuclear fallout. They'll paint these really scary pictures. Scare tactics are most heavily used in politics. For example, the example here is the global warming debate. So if you open a paper by saying, if America doesn't mend its ways, then our children will live in a world with no fresh water and no ozone, where they can't go outside without a mask because of air pollution. Whether you think that's feasible or not, it is a scare tactic. We're painting a scary image to try to get the reader to recycle, or to stop smoking, or to take the bus instead of a car, whatever it is that you think they should do to help the environment. So that is a scare tactic. We see scare tactics in literature as well. If you've ever read a dystopian novel, V for Vendetta, 1984, Stranger in a Strange Land, The Handmaid's Tale, any of those books are they're kind of using scare tactics by painting a picture that's close to reality, but has gone a little bit further into something that frightens us. So it's kind of saying, if we don't mend our ways, this is what could happen. So that is a scare tactic. And the last one we're going to talk about is the only one of these appeals that I absolutely do not want you to use in a paper or your letter or discussion board or any of those things, or the debate. So please do not use mudslinging in this class. But I'm going to talk about it because I want you to be able to recognize it. We see it a lot when people are trying to persuade, and it is a very dirty method of arguing that has really no validity when it comes to persuasion. So mudslinging has been around since pretty much like ancient Rome, since people really started formally debating, arguing. It's used a lot in politics today, but it is a personal attack. And when you're trying to persuade, you should not be using personal attacks. So, an example, and like I said, we see this in politics a lot, where people will attack one another as human beings, as people. So, the example here is 1 month before a major mayoral election, candidate A runs an ad in which he shows pictures of candidate B going in and out of hotels and implies that B is having an extramarital affair. So, probably there'd be pictures of hotels, there'd be some ominous music playing, it'd be shot in largely dark colors to give this kind of tone that something's wrong. So, this advertisement undermines candidate B's reputation as a family man. Candidate A manages to skew public opinion away from candidate B and towards himself just by default. So if candidate B is making it look like candidate A is having an affair, people are going to be skeptical of candidate A and more inclined to vote for candidate B, even though he's really not saying anything about himself. Though the candidate's affair may be a total fabrication, mudslinging can work because people are not critical enough of that strategy. So we do often hear politicians just attack one another as people. Oh, why was he doing this? Why was she at this? Why were they talking to this person? Often that's just not valid at all. So be very careful of mudslinging. It's not a valid persuasive technique, and it actually doesn't make the person using it look any better. And mudslinging can backfire. So if I'm, in an election against Joe, and I say, "Oh, Joe's just a really terrible person. Look, he didn't tip his waiter the other day when he went out to dinner." When people see what I'm doing and that I'm just personally attacking Joe, that makes me look bad because it's such a dirty way to fight. I'm saying, "Oh, I don't really have any good reasons why you should vote for me, so I'm going to just attack Joe." That's no good. So please do not use mudslinging. We are in the next PowerPoint's going to be getting into logical appeals. And like I said, these emotional appeals we've covered in the past few PowerPoints, you're going to want to mix in with your logical appeals when you're crafting your persuasive letters.